Have you ever done something nice or helpful for a friend and later found out that they thought it was obnoxious or unpleasant? Or cracked a joke to family members thinking it was funny but later found out they were offended? It's likely that this has happened to you because of a difference in perceptions between different people. Perception is an active process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting the world around us. Perceptions directly influence our communication, and our communication directly influences our perceptions. I've spent a lot of time studying perception and have spent even more time being a witness to communication issues caused by a lack of understanding of what perception is and what influences it. By understanding perception and what influences it, we are able to communicate more efficiently and understand issues with a multidimensional outlook. The active process of perceiving begins with the selection of what to perceive. This is based on what's relevant and immediate to us, what our habits are, and what we choose to indicate to ourselves. Too much stimuli around us causes us to not perceive everything that's around us. This is why selection is a key component to this process. Next, we organize what we have selected to make it meaningful to us. The theory to explain this is constructivism, which states that we apply 4 types of cognitive schemata to our experiences in order to organize and interpret them. The different types of schemata are called prototypes, personal constructs, stereotypes, and scripts. Prototypes are the most ideal representatives of categories in our heads, such as the ideal spouse or how much we define a good teacher. Personal constructs are what we use to determine the qualities of others. They allow us to position people along dimensions of judgment by establishing 2 extremes and placing people on either end of them. An example of this would be defining someone as intelligent or not intelligent, or an experience as pleasant or unpleasant. This is how we begin to define others and the situations we're put in. Stereotypes are predictive generalizations about people and situations, and they can be accurate and inaccurate. The accuracy depends on if it's based on facts or prejudice and assumptions. Even if a stereotype is accurate for a group, it can be inaccurate for an individual within that group. Scripts are guides that consist of a sequence of actions that define what we and others are expected to do in specific situations. We act out scripts without realizing it, and oftentimes our scripts are similar to others that share our culture and our values. Lastly, we interpret what we have selected and organized. This is a subjective process that involves the use of attributions, which are explanations of why things happen and why people act in certain ways. 4 different dimensions of attributions are locus, stability, scope, and responsibility. Locus and stability attributes actions based on internal and external factors and permanent versus temporary factors. Slope and responsibility define behaviors as global or specific and within or outside of personal control. Together, it is all referred to as the perceptual set theory. Perception is subjective and influenced by a multitude of factors. According to the psychological researcher Saul McLeod, the 4 biggest influencers are expectations, emotions, motivations, and culture. For example, here you see the number sequence 12, 13, and 14. Now you see the sequence of letters A, B, and C. So is it B or is it 13? When you see the 12 and 14, you expect a number, and so you say 13. When you see the A and the C, you expect a letter, so you say B. Motivation and emotion are broader influencers as they can be based off of physiology, values, personality, and experiences. Culture is a big influencer as well because cultures differ in values, traditions, teachings, and habits. In a scholarly article for a Journal of Arts and Social Sciences, Dean Stolnake argues that the largest influencer over perception is how we perceive our environment in regards to scarcity. When we perceive scarcity in our lives, we act largely out of those feelings of not having enough or not being enough. Now that we've discussed what the active process of perceiving entails and how it's influenced, it's easy to see how perceptions differ from others even when we're experiencing the exact same thing. Naturally, communication issues can arise because of differences in perception when people disagree over past occurrences, the meaning behind words, and the intentions of actions. There are several ways to avoid these issues and reach a better state of communication and understanding. One of these ways is to distinguish between facts and inferences. Do you know something to be a solid fact, or does it feel true to you because of how you perceived it? Another way is to check your perceptions with others. Tell them what you've seen and how you've perceived it, and then ask them if they interpreted it differently. Lastly, be mindful of all of the complex factors that play into perception and realize that all perceptions, even your own, are subjective, partial, and unique. Perception is at the heart of communication because it shapes how we communicate and how we understand the communication coming from others. By understanding the process of perception, we're better able to understand each other.